All right, cool. We're recording. Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's call. So today's call is going to be about debriefing our interviews that we had with David Bush, Jamil Frazier, and Kim Fisk to try to get the highlights and to try to get some of the things that we're implementing from those calls. So we're going to get right into it, and I believe we already have our first contestant ready to tell us about her story. Sarah?
Thank you, Gary. So it's been really helpful to hear different perspectives. What I found really something I was not doing that this spoke about was talking about money with my prospective coaches. And that's something I always shied away from, as I didn't come on board to be a coach to really make money as much as...
Amy, I'm going to mute you. Okay.
It wasn't about the money for me. Of course, that was, I would like to make an income from this, but the important thing was helping people. So I sort of backpedaled and never really brought up money with my potential coaches because I didn't want them to think I was trying to lure them in with the money-making possibilities. So when Kim mentioned that, I said, you know what? Even though it's not about the money, it adds value to know that you're paid well for something that you're doing, and that might be attractive to people. So I started bringing it up with my potential coaches. And today I have an Explore call with Sherry with one of those people who I had mentioned coaching to her quite a few times and did not seem interested. And then the last call I had with her, I'm like, hey, it really pays really well. And I started just throwing out some numbers, and she's like, well, really? She was like in shock, and she's about ready to do it. So and then I had another phone call with another potential, same thing, and she's really excited about the idea of it. So it's really, I think, made a huge difference so far. So I'm excited about that.
That's amazing. I mean, just that one little shift is think about how powerful that shift is sharing with people a little bit about how much money you're making in the right fashion, right? In the right way. And then a lot of people are definitely motivated by learning that they can do this and make money. So awesome. Well, keep us up to date, because those are the people you're ready to have on your team, people who want a business, who are willing to work for it, because we could train them to do all the other things, right? We could train them how to get the word out and do all that and be entrepreneurs and, and help them be successful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Is there anything else, if we want to start with Kim and kind of like just keep this on one person at a time? Anything else anybody else took from Kim? Amy, I know, are you guys still beeping there?
We're still beeping. I'll just unmute and then mute back. Sorry.
Amy just saw Kim's, and she has to leave early, so I wanted her to share, since she's fresh and brand new as a coach and saw that as a new coach. So let's kind of hear a little bit about what you took away from watching, as much as you watched.
Right. So I think the two things I took away from her, I was saying to Gary and Eloise that she is a ball of energy, first of all. Couldn't believe how much energy she has, and was able to keep up that energy the whole time she was talking, which was very attractive. The thing I took away the most, and Gary and Eloise just heard me say this, I fear how I'm going to do on the second piece of it's very easy for me to tell my story and why I'm doing this for my family and for myself. The harder piece is for me to spread the word and not offend anyone. As they know, I kind of feel like I wish people would just drop into my lap, because I would love to help, but I'm more afraid of offending by approaching them in the wrong way. But what I liked that Kim had to say was that it's okay to fail. It's a science experiment. So you learn as you go along, and they're not necessarily mistakes, but it's just a learning process, and you get better as you go, and you can't beat yourself up over it. So I'm trying not to beat myself up as I start on this journey and feel like I'm failing. So that, to me, that was the biggest thing that stood out, was just everyone starts at the same place. Everyone learns as they go and gets better. And she was really impressive to me. She just seemed like she could talk for days and people would keep listening. So that was it.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, who else would like to share what they learned on Kim and what they, not more importantly, like what you just heard, but like what you're going to implement and what you're implementing now with it, like what Sarah just shared.
Me. It's me.
MJ, is that you talking?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Okay. I love her simplicity. I kept thinking, I don't want to go back and redo what I did before. But realistically, we do need to step back and keep it simple. I loved when she said, when she's meeting with someone and coaching with someone, how she has to stop and say to herself, why am I talking? Because we're really supposed to be letting them talk. But the simple steps of going through everything, I loved hearing everyone go back and relive what took them to where they are and the stumbling blocks that they came across and what they have learned. And it when you have, you know, we all have peaks and we all have valleys. And I think when you're in the valley, you think that you're there all by yourself. And when you learn and hear from some of our greatest leaders, our biggest leaders in this company, how they have all experienced the same, and not everything that's one leader teaches you is going to work for you. You have to just take it all in and plug in what works. But it's the simple things, it's the simple steps, the repetitive stuff that will continue to move you forward as long as you do them. And keeping this so much about a relationship. And I think being in a valley for a while, which I have been, from lack of space to work in and having consistency in my life, what I have learned is it's okay. Before I used to panic, but it's okay, because what I have, the skill and the knowledge I have, I just need to restart and do it and follow through. It really is that simple. And it was kind of interesting to see how with her, it just, to me, well, actually with all three of them, they just seem more real, tangible. I identified with every one of them so much more that it made this seem like this is worth everything I'm going through right now, because I can move forward. Say hi, Alan. So there's a lot I want to implement. I don't want to go into it because I literally kind of mixed people together because they were similar in some of the things. But probably the greatest thing is just laying all this, do this and this and this and this and this to side, and just do what works and just keep it simple.
Yeah, MJ, I totally agree with what you said about keeping it simple. And I was telling this to Amy too. For me, what I learned from Kim was to keep it fun. Like, just in my conversations with people, just to remember to like laugh and enjoy, and just it takes the pressure off, and it's just I'm with my friends and learning about their lives and learning about what interests them, and that's awesome. That's such a gift. So just enjoy it and keep it fun. And it's like just is like a breath of fresh air to hear her say that, and to just remind myself to do that in the conversations. Like, this is the point of all of this, is the relationships and the fun and the enrichment and enjoy, so that's my 2 cents.
One thing that I took away from Kim, I loved Kim. I loved all three of them, but Kim, I loved how motivational she was, and I've heard this kind of theme with her. She was definitely high energy, and she was fun, and she made it attractive. Like she wasn't a downer. She wasn't melancholy. Like, it was just her personality, and the way that she loved what she was doing is very attractive. And so there's a couple concepts that she talked about. One was unpacking your monster under the bed. I really liked that concept. Because, you know, for me, I know we all have things that we beat ourselves up about, and, you know, I hate it when I do that, or I always do that, or people think this when I do this. Like, we all have those. And so if we can really look and see, like, what is it that I assume people think about me, first of all, and, like, why do I beat myself up about it, and then what can I do about it? So I really like that idea. And I don't know if you want a couple examples. Do a couple examples of things that I'm thinking about? Yeah. Okay. So one of them is like my fear of speaking in front of people. I hate speaking in front of people, but I've been doing it more since I've been a coach. I've been on the stage a few times, and the last couple of times weren't actually that bad. They were pretty good. And so for me, it's like, you know, she's talking about, oh, that's just a fluke. That's a one-time thing. I'm actually really bad about it. But beating ourselves up, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I'm telling myself I'm going to do horrible, and if I go up there with a negative energy, then that's what I'm portraying. But if I go up there with confidence, and I've practiced, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm telling myself, this is going to go awesome, I'm going to make eye contact, I'm going to pause, I'm going to, you know, and if we reaffirm ourselves, then that's what comes across. And so I just love that idea of, like, face our monster under the bed. What is it? What do we assume people think about us? And, like, first of all, there's a good chance they don't even think that about us. That's just something we think about ourselves. So getting over those things and being able to confront them and move on. So that was one thing that I really liked that I took from Kim.
That one's awesome. And what she said in my notes that appealed to that one, which is stop believing your thoughts. You know, she said, stop believing your thoughts and learn how to observe your thoughts, you know, because your thoughts really are lies for the most part. They're telling you things that you believe about yourself that might be a lie. They're telling you things that you're not good enough, or people are going to do this, Y, and Z. And it's really those old fears that either we adopted as a kid or, you know, heard as from maybe our parents put their fears in us, because they do. And we put them in our kids, right? Since we just constantly mess up every generation after that. But it's those, so just don't believe those thoughts that you're not good enough, you're not powerful enough, you're not strong enough, you're not this, you're not that, you know? Those are those negative thoughts that bring you down. And even the positive ones you can't believe. I'm so great, you know? I'm amazing at this. Like, we can't even believe those, right? That's just our ego trying to tell us how great we are, to boost ourselves up. And so it's about being humble, and it's about just doing the right thing, you know, doing the intuitively right thing to help someone move forward. And one of the things that I heard when MJ was sharing, and everybody else too, which is Kim talked about, like, well, she talked about a couple things. One, make it exciting and fun. That was, like, hands down her biggest thing. Make it exciting and fun, because people are attracted to fun. And I know, I'll admit I have a challenge with that, because I'm not an enthusiast as by nature, and Kim is. So for Kim, it's easy to be an enthusiast, right? For me, it's a little bit more, I can be that sometimes when I want to be a stand-up comedian, but, you know, when I'm working, I'm usually trying to be more serious. But for me, I need to make it more fun. But she said, as you do that, you got to reinvent your story, right? The story is not the one that you wrote 8 years ago, right? You got to bring that thing up to date. And so she talked about reinventing your story. So MJ, you guys have a new story. You know, you've kept your weight off for a long time. That's the most important thing, I believe, when people hear what you could say. I've had our house went down. We had floods. We lived in a hotel. We did this. We tried to manage our businesses. We're on these committees on Miss California. Like, literally, your story is so good. You could say, I've done these things and I kept my weight off, where most people would have gone the other direction so fast because of, you know, we turn towards food in our pain cycles, right? Does anybody identify with that one? You know? And you didn't, right, MJ? You guys stayed healthy. You've got no idea how powerful that is. Let's work together to craft that, so you know how to say it that way, because what you're doing is you're inspiring hope. And that's kind of what Kim was talking about. Reinvent your story, redefine your story, and reconnect to your story.
Yeah, because my other story's old.
What's that?
My other story's old. It's 6.5 years old. And, you know, it
doesn't work anymore.
Story. This is a great story.
This story is fresh, it's new, it's real, and it's live. And everybody here has a new story because everyone's growing in their business and in their life, and life doesn't stop, right? The earth has not stopped spinning. And by the way, do you know how fast it goes? Anybody know how fast the earth is spinning?
17,000 miles an hour.
That's very fast, but you're close, but it's 1,000 miles an hour.
Oh, there you go, Alan. Mr. Smarty on the floor back here.
So if you really think about this, if you want to identify time, this is the equation I came is you can actually measure time. It's not, we measure it by seconds and minutes, but have anybody ever feel that time is going by at about 1,000 miles an hour in life? Like if you really think about how fast things are going, you're like, wow, that's about 1,000 miles an hour. I've heard that people say that, and I'm like, do you intuitively know that the earth actually spins that fast? And they didn't, but it's like this. But that's how fast time's going, 1,000 miles an hour, if you really think about it. So, and how fast the earth is spinning around the sun, that's a bigger number. Anybody want to guess how fast that moves? MJ? I know Alan's got an answer.
He said he'll wait for you.
Yeah, that's 65,000 miles an hour the earth moves in space. 65,000 miles an hour it's moving around the sun. So I bring that up just to obviously, look at different perspectives, and time just keeps going and the earth keeps going. And so our stories need to be reinvented. That's kind of what I got from her. And then she mentioned like the factors of success, and the couple of things that she mentioned is that to continue to stay with that, what are you excited about idea, right? That was like her number one factor of success that I wrote down. Do you guys write that down too? Do you guys remember that one? What are you most excited? What are you excited about? And in our business, we want to be excited about helping people get healthy and really jump on that health train. And so that's about, I'm excited about helping people get healthy on my health train, and I'm really excited about my story. And that's where that reinventing the story becomes so powerful, because you keep it fresh and new, maybe. And she mentioned, I can't read my writing. To be excited about belonging in a community of people. That was the other factor of success. So what are you excited about? Your story, and you're excited about being in a community like the Optavia community, right? A community of people trying to get healthy and working on themselves and personal development. And because those are the people, this is what she said, those are the people who will be here for me. And when I thought about those three things that she said, what came to me is that's what other people are really looking for, right? Aren't most people looking for like a community that they can, whether she called it a health church, that was like her name for it. Like, so people belong to different organizations when it comes to their religious, but this is like the lifestyle organization, right? And it's like people want to belong to a community like ours. So she said the factors of success are, what are you excited about? Your story, and that you're excited about being involved in it. We're excited about being involved in a community that's here for me. I'm excited about things that are happening to me and being involved in a community that is here for me. And whether you're comfortable or not, saying it's kind of like a health church. It's a community of people trying to get healthy, like-minded. We're on the same mission. That's what I took from Kim's.
I also wrote down factors of success for Kim, and I wrote down 3 bullets. The first one was your story. She said the authentic delivery of your story. And we were kind of talking about this at the very beginning of the call. There's a difference between, repeating it so perfectly eloquently, yet empty and robotic, like that's not attractive, but sharing it in a very authentic way where people can connect and we're being vulnerable is a big deal. And so that was one thing I took from her as the first one. Second one is, how many people do you know? So I think these are bringing on a new coach. These are the 3 things: your authentic story, how many people do you know? And the third one was personal development. So stop believing your thoughts. Instead, take yourself out of the situation and look at it. And she said, if you phrase it like this, isn't it interesting that I think this about myself? So instead of saying, I think this, or I always do this, like take yourself out of it and say, isn't it interesting that I think that? Like, what does that mean? Or what can I do about that? I thought that was an interesting perspective. So
Absolutely.
well,
Yeah.
another thing
That's perfect because I couldn't write down everything. So we kind of mix matched our bullets, which is actually perfect because when you put it together, those are
the big list.
That's her top 6, right? What are you most excited about? Your story. Maybe somebody wants to take notes on this because we should probably get a Google Doc with the bullet points.
I wanted to point out another one that I wrote this so big on.
Can anyone take a note? Can anyone do that? Or do I have to do it?
Notes on what we're talking about?
Yeah. Just like bullet points.
Well, maybe if we all kind of try to.
I'll do it.
Okay. The other thing that I remembered, and this is kind of, and I'm sure it's for other people, but kind of for Michaela and I, is that we kind of look at everything as, wow, I blew that, or what a big fat failure, or blah, blah, blah. She said this, and I wrote it really big. Hold everything as a science project. And it took me back to, the ED days, the old ED meeting days that we had when it was, what went well, what could we do better, and what did we learn? But I didn't really grasp it as like a science project. And I loved when she brought that out, that you don't take anything, it's like when you're doing science. Some things work, some things don't, and you have to tweak it. So that kind of took the blame game out of it for me.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that too. She also said that people are either a leader or a doorway. And I liked that idea. Not that we use everybody we meet, but everybody, there's an opportunity there. So either they can be a leader and join us on this mission, or they can be a doorway and they can bring us their friends and family as referrals. And so it's kind of an interesting perspective. Like everybody can help get people healthy. They just may have a different role. So what role can they play?
Keep talking, Michaela. I'm taking notes real quick.
Oh, all right. Another thing that I wrote down was salt their oats. I know I've heard that a lot from the stage, but we can't make anybody do anything, but we can salt their oats. We can help inspire them to want to make change and to want to get involved. So that's always a good reminder.
Another one that she had said was learn how to observe. I know it's been said before, but this is what I wrote down. Learn how to observe your thoughts. Calm down the chatter. Stop listening to the chatter. Take a deep breath.
Yeah, she talked a lot about the chatter, like just listening to the little voices in your head. You can't do this. You're not good at that. You always do this. Like, that's not helpful. It doesn't help us. And nobody else thinks that. So get over it.
Yes, our mind chatter is deadly because it usually tells us the lies. That's the thoughts. The mind chatter is just those automatic, unconscious thoughts that just keep firing all day long. And if you really look at them, if you write them down, you'll realize that they're messages you heard growing up. And they're not truths about who you are. It's not truths about how God looks at you. It's not truth about anything except messages you heard. It's the big lie. Don't believe your thoughts. All right, so I have a lot of stuff here on Kim. I had to write down some of the bullets that we talked about, and that way we'll be able to at least take away the highlights of some of the things that she talked about. Let's move on to our next person. Oh, the one thing I also remember about Kim, and I'm gonna just put it down in the notes. She said to watch, and I did not do it yet. Parable of the Sower on YouTube by Jim Rohn. That was one of her big ones. Do you guys remember that? Anybody see it? Anybody watch it? I haven't either, but she said, watch Parable of the Sower, Jim Rohn on YouTube. Maybe, let me look and see real quick how long it is. And maybe we could, if it's a couple minutes, we'll watch it. Parable of the sower.
I have a question.
No. Okay.
I had a quick question. Didn't she write a book, Michaela, about the monster under the bed? Did you find the book? I tried to look for it on Amazon and I couldn't find it.
I don't
Not
think
published.
it's out yet.
Not published yet.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's not published yet, but she did write that book for sure. Sure, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, I think it was called The Monster Under the Bed or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounded really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for her for sure. Okay, let's move on. So the Parable of the Sower is 10 minutes long, so we're not going to watch it right now. But let's all try to watch that so we can see what she meant by that, because she definitely said to watch it, and she felt pretty adamant about that it's really good. Let's move on to Jamil. Who would like to start about what they heard from Jamil, if you remember or have your notes or recently watched it? And wants to share? Nobody?
That I took away from Jamil was that it's kind of a similar energy actually to Kim, but he loved helping everybody. And I feel like a couple people asked him questions about, like, how do you balance your time between helping the ones you think are going to be a coach versus giving too much time? And he was like, I don't do that. Like, I don't prejudge, if they're going to be a coach or not. I don't say, you're not going to be a coach, I'm not going to invest in you. Like, his attitude was, I'm going to love everybody and I'm going to invest in everybody regardless of if he wants them to be coach or not. And I really liked that servant's heart from him, that he wants to help everybody, and it's not everything has to be a selfish game where they're not going to be a coach, so I'm not going to spend my time. And I really liked that. I really liked that about him.
Made him real, huh?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone else have remembered Jamil and remember anything about it? I know one for sure. No one's ready to go. Stacy, you want to go? No. Okay, I'll go. I think the biggest thing for me, like the most powerful one for me from listening to Jamil, was how intentional he was. Because a lot of times we have good intentions, but we don't know where to put our intentions. Where our heart's in the right place, but we're not putting our actions and our alignments not in the same place. Our intentions are this, but we get this, and and it's like, well, I want this to happen, but this keeps happening. And so it's about like aligning those intentions and actions together. And I kind of view it like one of those clock wheels, where it's like, well, this is what I wanted to happen, and they were mad at me, but it wasn't my intention, or this is what I want to happen, and that's what happened, but I really wanted this to happen. And I've always learned it's about, for my personal life, it was always about aligning my intention of what I want to happen with my activity, saying, I want this to happen. How do I make that happen? Well, if I do these activities, that could happen, whether it was getting a job or all the intention stuff that I've always done. And I aligned them, and then boom, it happens. And that's kind of what I took from Jamil, who had an intention to love everyone, right? Like you said, Michaela, and talk to 10 people a day, tell my story about what I'm passionate about. He mentioned be on the beach and just talk to people, make coffee dates. Backbone was one to control his own life. And then he mentioned that, remember he mentioned that people are looking for three things: money, time, and meaning and purpose. He might have said four things. And less stress. He said people were looking for money, time, less stress, meaning, and purpose. And that he viewed talking to a lot of people. Anybody remember what he viewed him like? What Kim told him, that story? You guys remember what that was? He remember he viewed it as, and Kim shared it with him, and I was going to ask her about it, but it just went a different direction. But she shared with him that deck of cards and said, how many aces are in a deck of cards? And the aces represented your leaders, you know, but there's also a lot of 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, right? And in our business, you can relate those to coaches that don't do anything, to maybe just stay at senior coach. 8, 9, 10s, maybe they make ED by volume, but they don't grow farther than that. 10s, Jack, Queens, maybe you got regional and national directors there. Kings, global directors. Aces, presidential directors. You know, like, and she shared with him, this is how it is. This is human nature. And so he just said, well, then I got to talk to tons of people to find the aces, right? And then he went and talked to 10 people a day, wherever he was, found a way to talk to 10 people a day. Oh yeah, the jokers. Yeah, that's your wild cards. You're right. I love the wild cards. And so it was such a powerful image for me to like look at it from that perspective. Even in life, like that's such a powerful, because you could take away the business and look at people are like this, and all I need to do is figure out what is my plan. And if I align my attentions with my actions and I understand that this is how human nature might be, then I'm not attached to making everybody an ace when I know there's only 4 aces in the deck. You know, I'm not attached to driving this coach to do X, Y, and Z when I know that I don't know what card she is, you know, and then even probably examining what kind of card are you and where do you want to go? You know, it's like the metaphor can just kind of, and Kim mentioned everything was about personal growth, right? That was a big one for her. Working on yourself, which is really getting that monkey out of the mind. Those were some of the things I remember with Jamil.
I really liked the deck of cards analogy. I didn't write that one down, but you reminded me of it, because we all get so frustrated. Like, we have a handful of coaches and they're not doing anything. And I mean, everybody says 1 in 5, but like 1 in 5, really? But you know, there's a deck of 52 cards, and not everybody is going to be your aces. Not everyone's going to be your kings. You know, there's 4 out of 52 of each one of those. And so I do like that idea, as everybody has a different role to play. And even if we have a handful of senior coaches, like that can be their purpose, you know, and we can find other people that are the rock stars. And so yeah, that was it. That was a really good reminder, is that, just like you said, Gary, we can't push everyone to be the aces, because that's so much more work for us and we're dragging them along, and that's not necessarily even what they want. So that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a powerful analogy. And it's like we hear these, but the hard part is keeping them front and center, right? So what I do recommend we do today, I'll have these notes, I'll have to organize it a little bit better, but there's a very powerful way to remember these things, which is to get 3x5 index cards and do the same concept that we do with some of our clients, to say, what are the benefits of getting healthy? And put these 3x5 cards around your house, you know? And so like, all you have to see is a deck of 52 cards, right? Or the letters, how many aces in a deck of cards, and you'll know what that is. Or intentional, and you'll know what that means, right? Like, remember, it's about aligning. You know, I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas to help us keep some of these like really powerful ones in front of us. Otherwise, what happens is it's easy to forget, right? Because we are who we are, and we go on with what we go on with. Just a thought. Just a thought.
There's a sentence that I wrote down, or a question, I guess, that he uses when he talks to people, I guess potential coaches. And he just said, how would you like to solidify your choice to get healthy and reach your goals? And that's one question that he uses when he's about to bring up coaching. And I love that.
Solidify your choice.
How would you like to solidify your choice to get healthy and reach your goals? And you can do that by getting involved and by coaching others. And so I really liked how that was worded, because it's attractive. Like, I want to solidify my choice. I want to stay healthy. I don't want to, lose my health after all this work. So I like that one.
And did you say that was successful? I don't remember that one, but that sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he was kind of spitting out different things, and I just wrote that one down. It caught my ear, and I liked it.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Missed that one. So how would you solidify your choice to getting healthy and
how would you like to solidify your choice to get healthy and reach your goals?
I have it on a bullet, so don't worry about writing it. I'm going to send out a document here. Yeah, that was a good one. I remember him saying he would invite people to a lot of coffee dates.
Yeah.
So he would schedule a lot of just, hey, let's go grab coffee. And I'm sure there had to be, I don't know what his intention was. Was it just coffee? Maybe it was just coffee and conversation, because really you can bring up whatever you want to bring up in a conversation. That's not the intention of that, but maybe you're just exploring what you're doing to see if it might be a fit. That's not trying to give them a presentation. So that could fit right into a coffee date. And he mentioned one of his big things was to control his own life. And I think he talks to people about the level of control that they may or may not have based on their career, and how he's taken ownership of his life and he's controlling his life now. He's got this business model that can help him support that.
One thing that you mentioned, Gary, at the beginning of when we started talking about Jamil, was there's 3 things that people want. 1 or 2 or maybe all 3. The more time freedom, more money, or less stress. And I think that's a really good way to kind of but assess our potential coaches. I have this cat getting in my lap. Is to really see, like, where are they? Are they looking for more time? Are they looking for more money? Or are they looking for less stress? And which area can we focus on with this program? Because that's a really good avenue to bring up coaching, is when it's specifically about what they need and what they want. And that's something that I hadn't really connected before. I heard it before Jamil, but Brant and I were talking a little while ago too, and it's like there has to be a connection between, healthy body, between doing the health portion of our program and then all of a sudden coaching, and like, what is the link? And we really basically found out that, we ask them a ton of questions about where they are, how, what their life is like, what they're doing, like just so many different things, how they're feeling, life before, but I really wasn't going into a ton of detail about their life. Like, do you love your job? What do you do? What would you rather be doing? What do you want to do in 5 years? The path that you're on now, do you see it taking you there? Like, filling in all those other life questions. And I think this is a really good avenue, is finding out what do they want and what is missing from their life, and really focusing on that is what we can focus on, and that is what this program can bring you. And that kind of becomes the bridge between them being a client and them coaching, is if we can fill that gap.
I totally agree. And like you said, it's natural, and you can do this in conversation, because you're just, if I asked you in a conversation like, hey, so I'm curious to know if you could have more of something, what would it be? And here are the choices, And so, like, it's not really like I'm trying to pitch you on becoming a coach now. It could literally be done in natural conversation, right? And then you bridge that gap.
Yeah, I've actually gotten a lot better about asking questions just about those areas without even naming them. So it's like, tell me about your job. Do you like your job? What does your commute look like? Just asking questions like, oh, you love your job? That's awesome. Do you see yourself working there until you retire? Or do you want to go part-time eventually? Even if they love what they're doing, sometimes it's an 1.5-hour commute, and that is getting to them, So just, you want more time to spend with your grandkids? I don't know. There's just asking questions about their life will kind of answer those questions for you. Exactly
right. Like I was sharing earlier, and we're getting obviously deeper into this as we go as a company, is the if you look at ammunition, ammunition is things you have that you have control over, right? And so the ammunition of a coach is their questions, right? That's your ammunition, because the better you get at asking good questions, the better of a coach you are, because coaching is really about the client talking 80%, the coach talking 20%, and obviously sometimes you have to stop the client if they're a runner in their conversation, but the goal is for the coach to direct the questions. And so this fits right into that, of asking those. And then the questions just get better and better and better and better. And these questions may even be more powerful because they get right to the heart of things. Do you want more money, time, less stress, or meaning and purpose? If someone wants more money, then you could share with them how they can earn a little bit more. They might love their job, but they need more money, right? You don't know what it is. Or maybe their job is stressful and they want to get out. Then you know where to go. Because it was 4 things. It was money, time, stress, and meaning and purpose. I had and you'll see that in the bullet. So, but I love it. I think it's absolutely genius, and it's natural and it's authentic. It's just he's a really good coach because he's asking really good questions that tell him, it's a deeper question right out of the gate. Very cool. All right, should we move on, or anything else on Jamil? Anybody else have something on Jamil? No? All right, let's go to Sir David Bush. I have my notes here. Who wants to start on David Bush? Sarah, did you see any of these as well? You saw David Bush and Jamil's, right? Do you have anything to add to what we're talking?
Me?
You?
I was gonna say that, I don't know who I can really give credit completely to, but I've been a little stuck. I don't know, I've been coasting lately, and for like a couple months now, just being, not really taking that much action. And this somehow, I think maybe the fear, talking about, facing the fear. So that really is more Kim. So not David Bush, but really got me to face my fear of taking action in certain areas and just scheduling in things into my calendar that might not be things I want to do. But once I put it in my calendar, I find that just compels me to do it. And so, for example, I've been really having every excuse in my book of doing happy, healthy hours, of why I can't do it. My house is too small, or, my coach may not help me and I have to do it all myself and it's too hard. And I just said, that's it. And I put it in my calendar. I said, I'm making monthly happy hours, and if I get help, great. If not, and I told my coaches that are near me, I said, I'm doing this. You're in or out. Just let me know. And they both said, okay, let's do it. And so we're going to be scheduling out, these into my calendar. And then it's like, it's happening whether I like it or not. And I find I do really well that way. So it just reminded me that to, face the fear. I just got comfortable. So I think the calls, it's probably a combination of what David Bush said. And so it's hard to pinpoint, especially since I didn't do a review. Like a lot of things you're saying, it's like, I can't believe I forgot that. The deck of cards, I'm like, that was so clear before, but I can't imagine. It's pretty amazing how
fast you forget.
Yeah.
I know, because we're in our own heads, right? And our thoughts are going. That's why putting them on those cards, like we ask our clients to do, will keep the big ones in front of you, the ones that you resonate with deeply, because they're deep truths. They're deep truths about the business. Like, don't believe my thoughts. A deck of cards, those two right there. If that's all you did was just remember those two, think about how powerful you become as a human being. You realize that your thoughts that you tell yourself are not true. And so you start to overcome and then you start to tell yourself the truth, right? Then you learn to tell yourself the truth. Now, boom, your mind's in the right place. And then, and you realize that the human being spectrum is like a deck of cards in every area of life. There's ace doctors and there are twos doctors, right? There's ace chiropractors and twos chiropractors. There's ace kids and twos kids, right? And like those of you with big families can probably appreciate that one, even though you think all of them are aces. But you know what I mean? Like, so when you just those two shifts to me are so big, even for me, like to remember that all the time. Don't expect, certain things. Don't expect someone to be an ace if they're not an ace. Just recognize them for where they are. And then what ends up happening is you have lack of judgment, and then you stop judging, right? Because you're actually showing up real and authentic, and you're no longer judging. You're no longer having your thoughts tell you that this person needs to do X, Y, and Z, because now you realize I can't believe my thoughts. And then you actually get to just show up real and be in real service. Just those two, super powerful. Thanks for reminding, but awesome. Michaela, anything else actually, Sarah, on anything else that you learned? But I would like to say one thing is you're not stagnant, my friend. Your business is flourishing, and you should be very proud where you are in your business. And you might not have it the way you want it, but Dan Bell said, you take what you get till you get what you need. And so you're on the right path. And be very proud and enjoy the journey, because there is no destination, okay? You have goals to get to for everybody. We all want to be higher levels, presidential globals, even starting at FIBC or whatever. But remember, it's a journey, and just enjoy the journey. Obviously make sure you're making enough money to support whatever you've got, but enjoy the journey and just keep going forward. And there's peaks and valleys in this business. We call it working in spurts. There's times that you go at it, then you get exhausted, and then you got to kind of chill out for a little bit and maintain. And then you go at it, and then, and every one of those spurts is like a whole new crop of coaches, which gives you another couple senior coaches or whatever it is. And it's built over time. So just enjoy the process and the journey.
Yeah, I think I needed this time. I think I really it wasn't a waste of time. It was
no.
So
very powerful time. Yeah, enjoy it when you're there, and recognize when you're there, and don't feel bad about yourself. Like you kind of hinted at beating yourself up. So don't believe that. You're doing awesome. Don't believe those thoughts.
Yep.
Okay, David Bush. Anybody else? Michaela, MJ, who wants to speak? Raise your hand. MJ.
I have a thought. Oh, go ahead, MJ.
Okay. One of the things that I liked about him was just in sort of similar ways, we have the similar background, because he was in real estate and being the loan officer and having lots of people, and then being a speaker for it and being out there, and you kind of get into this training mode and not so much of the working, but all of those things, you think you have it all together, and then you get into something like this, which you try to plug in your previous professional skills. And I loved how he said that doesn't necessarily work, because I think a lot of that, a lot of people, I can remember Denise always saying to us, you guys bring so much to the table. You have so much experience in this and that. And so you create these higher expectations for yourself. And you think, well, why aren't I doing this right? Why isn't this working for me right? Because your delivery is a completely different delivery, because you're using what you used before in a different profession. And so he kind of shifted from that after he kind of told the story a little bit to how he was a little less conventional. He didn't do everything exactly the way everyone was saying doing it. Yet he would take time to sit down and talk to the people who had big businesses and what they did, and learn everything about them, and then see what would work for him, instead of, I don't know, you go to conference and you get fed all of this information, and then you try to do what everybody else is doing. When he made it clear, which I think I've been trying to tell myself for a long time, that you really have to just take in what their skill is and what has worked for them, and then you have to fit it for you. Because if you don't do that, that's when your authenticity goes right out the door.
Would say that one more time, MJ, so I can make sure I capture it in the notes.
Well, in learning, you take in all the learning, take in all that you get from the leaders, but then you have to find what works best for you. Because if you try to be them, you are no longer authentic. You have to do it your way to be authentic. Otherwise, you're just a talking head. I said it different that time.
That's okay. It's the same point. I like it. And that brings me to at least one thought on, there's a document that says income producing activities, right? And not everybody's, we can't make somebody a Facebooker if they're not a Facebooker. And so like we have different activities for people. Like this business was built before Facebook. You go to networking meetings, you call the people that you know, you get the word out, you get a newsletter, you get a follow-up campaign. Like the cornerstone of this business is, and you guys, if you all heard it and know it, if you don't follow it and make sure all your coaches do, then it's going to be challenging, which is getting the word out email, or the thank you email. They're redefining their story. These are like the cornerstones, some type of follow-up campaign. And so not everybody's going to want to do one way. And so that's why you say, okay, what I always say is these are the options. We could do Facebook. You could do a multi-pronged approach if you're comfortable. If you just want to get the word out, like what way is most comfortable for you? And then start there. That's at least that's a cornerstone. But that kind of reminds me of what David said about, Kim's a Facebook person, so everyone wanted to do it. So it's like, well, you can't push people. You got to get on Facebook, and then you push them, and then maybe they don't want that, right? That's kind of what you're saying. You got to figure out what works for them and then help them do it. Anything else, MJ?
Let me flip through some more notes, but that just really jumped out at me because that's what I was feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Michaela?
That was actually one of my points too. The strange thing with David Bush was that when he was sharing a little bit about his story, I didn't really relate to his story. I mean, my story is so very different from his, so I didn't really relate to like how he started his business and how it grew. But the points that I took away from it are still very relevant. And so I like how our stories are so completely different, and like just our approaches are so different, and yet we can still take things away from different people, and different stories. And the cool thing about him is that I feel like he was he's grown a lot. That's one thing that I took from him, is that a lot of the earlier trainings and recordings that I've heard from him, he's not quite as aware. He wasn't as quite aware of people around him, or he's just a lot more assertive, I guess. And in this one, it seems like he was a lot more vulnerable, and he was trying his hardest to listen to people and to authentically connect with people and build relationships. And so I just love seeing that even though he is high up there, he is still working on personal development. So there's no end to that. There's no, I reached this level, I'm good. Like that, we're growing and we're learning, and we always will be our entire lives. And so that was just, I love that. And then he also did talk about his authentic approach and how he was clear that he does not do everything, exactly like all the top leaders, because that's not his way. He takes, just like what MJ said, he took what people did, he's taking what's working, he was aware, and then, he may have modified it a bit, or he may have just done his approach to that, so that he feels authentic in what he's doing. And I think that's important. I don't think we should reinvent the wheel. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that it is important to listen and to absorb what's going on, and then to do what is authentic to us. And so I really like that, because we're talking head, when we're just spitting out what other people are saying and we don't really believe it, we don't connect with it. It's obvious that people know that, and people don't want to work with you if you're trying to sell them, and that's what it becomes. So, yeah.
I can never see you doing that, Michaela.
Well, Some of my events, I felt like I had to follow a specific structure, and I did not connect with that structure. I didn't want to push coaching. Like the Elevate Now was not Elevate Now. The first one was super coach heavy. And I just felt icky. Like the whole thing was, you need to become a coach, coaching this, you make so much money. We talked about finances in front of people that didn't even know about the program. I hated it. And I felt gross, and it was not successful. And I think that's why. But then every live event that I've done since then, I'm like, I'm going to talk very little about program. I'm going to talk more about health. It's more about relationship building, and it's not program heavy. And I feel so much more authentic about doing that, because that's my way. Even if it is a little bit slower, it's my way, and I feel true to it. So, I just think we need to find what works.
Say something about that, because I'm not your coach, but no, just sometimes I find for myself that I have concepts in my head that, like, for example, when we were told to offer our clients the kit, as that's the way they order, because it's that's the way it's done, and I felt that's wrong. We should give them options, because why should they get to choose their food? And I couldn't wrap my head around that concept. So I would go the hard way, spend hours with my clients, helping them pick out their food. And then I heard a training one day, and it clicked with me that it's not just about, I was overwhelming the client. They don't know what they like. So I'm spending a lot of time with them, wasting their time, wasting my time. And still they didn't end up with food they wanted. They had to exchange and whatever. So I wasn't doing anyone a favor. And as soon as I wrapped my head around it, and I saw I was doing it for a good reason and not to do it for me, because if I'm doing it to get myself ahead, I don't feel comfortable. But if I'm doing it to help my client, then I feel comfortable, and I'm totally for it. So I find a lot of times that it's with, the perspective, and I'm the same as you. Like, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to, push the coaching. But, if you're looking at it from their best interest of, maybe it's not a fit for everyone, but, just getting your head wrapped around, maybe those events are not for you, but just sometimes it is just a reframing of something in your head and hearing it from someone that can, so maybe something that's in your head that makes you feel that you're being inauthentic, but really you could find a way to be authentic and get the results, possibly.
That's true. That's a good point. I think it's a good idea to stop and look at it and evaluate it and see if there's a way to be able to do it where I feel comfortable with it. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. One thing about the kits that I wanted to say is I had a really hard time with the kits too. And so actually what I do now is I send my new clients a list of 32 items and tell them to take 10 out, so that they still have freedom to pick what they want, but it's super easy and streamlined. I have a list of 32, email it to them, cross 10 out, and we're good. That's your order. So there's still freedom there, but it's very streamlined and simple. So that was kind of my compromise to that one, instead of getting a kit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, being able to look at things that way and make it authentic to us is important. Yes?
I love that example, because now the classic kit is gone, and I've had like 3 old people come back, and they're like, wait a minute, I can't find what I want. I looked for the kit and I can't find the kit. And so I literally had to say, well, remind me what you wanted. But if I can just send that to someone who's used to the classic, and then just say, do that, pick those out, then fine. That would work so much easier, because there are no more classic kits, as I found out. So I like that. Thank you very much.
Here, I'm going to share 2 things. One was, that was a great point, Sarah, and that was a great story to highlight the idea of, like, how do you build that bridge, Michaela, right? How do you build a bridge that you're comfortable with, but still have that bridge, right? And not just, I'm not going to cross that bridge because I don't like where it's going, but how do you build it where you're like, wait, I'm comfortable doing it that way because it's not direct. It doesn't feel icky. But I'm still getting the point out. So I think it's definitely worthy of exploring how to build that bridge, so you're at least offering the full capacity that is in their best interest, but you're not doing it in a way that makes you feel bad. And then I'm just going to offer another way to do that kit. The way I used to do it, this was at least what I came up with, was because I had the same issues with the kit. And I basically would say, okay, great. I would find out, do you love chocolate? Do you love salt? I'd find out a little bit about that and their busy schedule. And then I would just make it. I would just do the kit because I knew everything pretty much, you know, how to organize it for them. And I would just build their kit. And therefore, I didn't get involved in a back and forth with them in any way. I just learned a couple of things. If they like chocolate, I made sure they had, you know, the combination, what a kit might look like, or find out a little bit about their work schedule and their eating times. How hard is it going to be to get them food? That'll give you an idea of how many on-the-go things you might need. There's just a couple of extra questions. It's another way to do it, to do it for them, because you know one thing, they're not going to like everything no matter what. Whether you send them the 32 and they knock out 10 or whatever it is, they're not going to be happy with everything. And just knowing that going into it is like, okay, I'll do the best that we can. These are the ones that you share that your tastes are like this, so I'll get you these. But you don't have to tell them that. You just ask those questions, write it down, and then, so just another alternative. Let me share real quick about David Bush, because I know we're getting late here on time. One of the most powerful things he said, and I actually texted him back right after our call and said, I can't believe you threw this out, but it was awesome, which was flowers don't compare themselves to other flowers, they just bloom. Remember that one?
Yep.
That's another one to write down on one of your index cards, because it's a lot of people live in what's called comparative reality. And comparative reality is, I'm not doing as good as them, right? Or I'm not as good as them, or we're always comparing ourselves to other people. And if you find that you live in that reality, then this is a powerful one to learn, because, you know, when I always tell people when they are comparing, does anybody live in that reality sometimes where you compare yourselves to other people? I know I for sure do as well. Like I definitely do it sometimes, but I remind myself, do I ever compare myself to people that have less than me? Or, you know, I'm always comparing myself and not measuring up. But if you flip the coin, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I have a meeting at 11:15, and if I
Okay, we'll go right now. So anyway, so that's another one that we could say, flowers don't compare themselves to other flowers. They just bloom. Be your own flower, right? Just be your own flower. Great call today, guys. I'll have this document out to you. Michaela, thanks for doing the recording and posting it on the Team Gary page.
Yep.
It was very fruitful. Love you all. Take care.